Hey guys, it's Elise and welcome back to My Cupcake Addiction. On today's episode, we're going to be making a giant jelly belly cupcake. All of the things that you need for today's video, I'm going to leave on the MyCupcakeAddiction.com website. I will link down below to that post so you can find your giant cupcake recipes, you can find how to get your cupcake to that stage, and also your chocolate ganache recipes all in the one place. To decorate your cake today, you're going to need jelly bellies. Now I've got a ton of different colors here, but the main colors that I'm gonna go for my base are two different variations of brown, and the main colors I'm gonna go for my top is gonna be two different variations of pink. Try and get a really light and a really dark variation in color so that you can really see the contrast between the two. I've got some candles I'm going to use to decorate, an offset spatula. As I mentioned, I've got my ganache, I've got my giant cupcake, and that's just resting on a cake board. And I'm also using just a tray over here lined with some baking paper, and it's got a wire rack on it. That's just going to be so that we can kind of drench our cupcake in delicious chocolate ganache. Let's get started. First up, you want to take both of your pieces of giant cupcake and just lay them down on your tray. I've got baking paper under that so that we don't waste too much of this ganache. Now, we're going to do the base first and we're going to do the top second. So I've got this lovely warm ganache and I'm just going to flood the top, or basically just pour it over like a decadent chocolate sauce. Try and pour it as evenly as you can so that it's going across all the different sides. And then we're just going to give it a couple of minutes just to drip off so that we don't have it kind of forming a bit of a pool down on our baseboard. If you need to, you can just use a spatula to make sure it's completely covered. Now, before I go to pick this up, I'm just going to give the top of it just a little bit of a brush off because all of that ganache is going to be pooled on the top, which is actually the bottom. So you want to get as much of it off that section as you can. Perfect. Now move that top section away because you want to just take your board now and stick it down as evenly as you can on the bottom, roughly in the middle. And then I'm going to flip the whole thing. That saves me having to try and pick this giant cupcake base up. Pop it down onto my turntable. Now, like I said, I decided to go with a brown and a gold. So I'm just going to do these alternating stripes of brown and gold, and that's going to make our giant cupcake case or patty pan. This is by no means a hard decoration technique, but it is going to be a little bit of time consuming because there's a lot of jelly belly placement that goes on. So for this bottom layer, it's as simple as that. You can see what I'm doing. I'm doing the brown and the gold and the brown and the gold. That's going to make a stripy cupcake base all the way around. With the base done, you can see all of my beautiful jelly bellies and their beautiful lines all the way around that cupcake case. Now we're going to flood the top or pour the ganache over the top section. Now, before I do this, I really do want some of it on the bottom just to make sure that it sticks nicely to the top of our bottom section. So kind of twist it. Turn it and drop it. Beautiful. Now, flooding the top. Perfect. And once again, I'm going to let all of that ganache drip off so that it doesn't go drizzling down the outside edges of all those jelly bellies we've just spent all that time placing on the base. Because now you've got nice, fresh, wet ganache on the top section, so all your jelly bellies are going to stick to it just fine. I'm just going to lift up using the offset spatula, and then I'm just going to run a knife just around the outside edge to make sure I've got all of those little excess drips. And on it goes. All right, so once you're pretty happy with the placement of your top, you can fill in any gap between the top of your cupcake and the base using semi-set ganache, and then just use the offset spatula just to kind of, I guess, just smooth it around a little bit, just in case you've got any kind of a little gap. We're going to take our two pink jelly bellies. So I've got a really light pink and I've got a really dark pink. One of those is going to make kind of like the shadow of the swirl, and the other one's going to fill it in. And to do that, I'm going to start at the top, laying them on their sides, and I'm going to create kind of like a little bit of, I guess, a snail shell effect. So you can see there as I come around with that swirl, really we're just making kind of like a widely spaced basic swirl, and then we're going to come back and fill it in with the lighter colored jelly bellies. Now as I get to this bottom section here, as we're meeting up with the cupcake case, I'm just going to sort of stop tapering down on the swirl, and I'm just going to line the top of the bottom cupcake case with those darker pink jelly bellies. All right, so that's my initial pink swirl. Now I'm just gonna go through and just fill these in. I'm gonna try and keep the jelly bellies going roughly the same way, but don't worry about it if some of them are standing up and some of them are laying down. I'm gonna leave a little circle on the top for one of my candles to pop into, because I know this is gonna be a birthday cake and I want that sitting right out the top. And if you've got any sort of weird little spots, you can grab a pair of scissors or a knife and just chop up your jelly bellies so that you've got kind of the perfect size piece to fit into any of those little gaps. So I've finished placing all of our beautiful jelly bellies, and now I want to bring the board into this cake. By now your ganache sort of started to set, so it's quite a little bit thicker than it was when we first started pouring it, and I'm going to use that again on the board. I'm just going to smear that, and I don't want it to be too thin, all the way around the outside. Try not to let it come up the sides of your cupcake. And then we'll tidy up the outside edges as well, because we don't want to have chocolate all over those. They can stay nice and silver. So now I'm just going to take some of my red jelly bellies. Whenever I do anything kind of rainbowish, or when I'm trying to add a pop of color, I kind of have a little bit of a color scheme that I stick to. So I'm going to use up all of my red, and then I'm going to switch to orange, go to yellow, then we'll go to green, and then we'll go to blue. Make sure that you use whatever color you've got the least of as your first color, and whatever color you've got the most of, which for me is blue, as your outside color, because you're going to use more as you go around the outside as the board gets bigger. That's it, we're done. The only thing that's left for me to do now is to choose a candle and pop it on top. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. I hope you loved learning how to make an edible, mosaic, artistic looking giant cupcake with me today. If you love the video, give it a like or let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to My Cupcake Addiction for 2 new videos every week. And as always, guys, thanks very much for watching.